what are the kind of 2 or 3 characteristics of the role that the parish leader should consider?
So I really think part of it is listening to the community on what is actually needed. And part of that means that it may not be someone with a theology degree or a business degree, but have they had that transformation of heart that they are actually the leader and have that mission ingrained in them that they can do that position, right? It's very interesting when we look at the resume, so to speak, of our staff, and actually you would say, how is this working?
You're right.
It is. But it is because we've all listened to our call from God and have answered it.
Welcome to Magnified Ministry Podcast, the podcast dedicated to inspiring, encouraging, and equipping parish leaders to build thriving missionary communities in today's rapidly changing world. This is the Magnified Ministry Podcast.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Magnified Ministries. We are so excited to have more guest speakers today and to continue our conversation. We started last week with Father Brett. It was a good conversation, wasn't it?
It was a great conversation. And you know what's kind of neat? We're in Chicago, spring has started, and how fitting it is that we're talking about renewal, about new life in such a beautiful and fun season that we're living in here.
That's perfect. And so we started last week talking about kind of the spiritual conversion. We talk about spiritual conversion of us leaders, and we'll now this week speak about communal conversion, like when other people in our parish are called to come to Jesus so they can share the good news with Jesus with other people.
Yeah, and I think what we want to bring to life today through our conversation is this idea of, let's say you as a pastor or as a leader have had this awakening or this deeper conversion, and you have felt God place a call in your heart that goes something like this: I want you to help renew this parish. Probably doesn't sound like I do, but what do you do with that, right?
Exactly.
Because you as a pastor, as a leader, can't do it by yourself. So that's what we want to unpack through our conversation today.
And you know, Marco, something that we both learned in business school is when people say, parish leaders, pastors say, no one in my parish is interested in starting something new. We all bet know that's actually not true, because as you look at the just typical distribution bell, you know that there is a percentage, about 10% or so, people who are early adopters who really want to try it, about 4 or 5% innovators, people who really want to do something. So yes, vast majority of people in your parish won't be innovating and driving change, but every parish has some people who are really passionate about it. But because you never tried it, you never awakened them. So you don't even know they're in your pews because you are not doing anything creative.
That's right. Or maybe they're feeling the same things you are, and you just haven't had the conversation with them. So before we bring our guests, I'd love if you could just share a little bit of what it looked like for you to come to St. Clement and start activating, this idea of communal renewal. Because you came at a time where you had this awakening in your own ministry and in your own vocation, and now you were given an opportunity to actually play that out and bring that to life in a parish. So could you just share a little bit of what that looked like to try to build a coalition, if you will?
Well, it started simply by recognizing that there's no way I can do at St. Clement what I think God is calling me to do on my own, by myself, right? So it was fairly intimidating being appointed a pastor here, because my predecessors by large were extremely talented and very, very gifted. Clement is this well-known parish across Chicago for doing innovative, creative things, and here I am, being born in Poland, speaking with the accent, not being raised in, money. And so there's a lot of things that of bad.
Pastor for the first time.
Yeah, pastor for the first time. I spent 8 years in a pastoral center in administration. So coming to that was fairly overwhelming, until really in prayer, God kind of said, well, if I sending you there, I will send you the right people to do that with you. And I think off bat, I knew that in order for St. Clement to sustain itself for the parish to grow, for us to serve the people of God, I have to keep pulling people, and not really to join me, but to really start owning parts of the parish life, part of the ministry that I'm unable to do it myself because I don't have the right skills, because I don't have the right disposition, and because I cannot be everywhere. And there is so much comfort in knowing that we have both staff and lay leaders who do jobs that I would never be able to do at the level they do it. And driving incredible ministry. Sometimes I go to bed and I'm thinking, I didn't even know we were doing that at St. Clement. And we have the whole team doing it, and it's going pretty well. Like meal deliveries for sick people or for parents who just had children's, right? And I didn't know we were even doing it, but apparently we are, because I got a thank you note from somebody saying, thank you for delivering meals to me when we had a newly born child. Well, great.
Yeah.
So you start seeing the power of ownership changing community.
And I think what's interesting is, and we're not going to geek out on all the business school concepts because this is not a framework class or anything like that. We go back to those because it's helpful to orient ourselves to theory that's true and that's tested, and then we try to apply it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I remember that we did at the very beginning, and this was 2020, so everything was virtual. We gathered all the councils and many of the leaders together virtually to do like vision sharing sessions.
Absolutely.
Do you remember those? Where we would have some of the videos from Divine Renovation or the Renew My Church Summit and just have conversation. And I remember over a course of 3 or so months, people went from thinking these people are crazy.
Yep.
I remember people were like ready to.
I actually thought you were crazy. I still have those moments.
Yeah. But what was cool is, as people started to unpack that, and as people started to experience Alpha online, or they started to read, different books, Divine Renovation and others, something started happening. And the same experiences of conversion and awakening that we had, we started seeing in other people. And that's when we said, okay, now we can really start to have a conversation that's different, because people are looking at what we're looking at in the same way, and we have a common language.
I love that.
And so that was really cool to see.
So today we have two guests that will be joining us. Katherine Sexton, she is the chairperson of our pastoral council here at St. Clement, and Nicole Zenner, she's the chief of strategy and staff here at St. Clement, and they will join us on the conversation about how to sustain renewal and how God calls all of us to conversion so we can do this work together.
We'll see you on this side.
Hi, everybody. So welcome back. So we are super excited to have Katherine Sexton, who is the chairwoman of our pastoral council, Nicole Zenner. She runs our staff, and she's our chief of strategy. Ladies, so grateful that you're part of the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you both so much.
Clement is very different in 2025 than when we started this in 2020. What are the key differences that you've seen, Katherine, that you think would help parish leaders to kind of evaluate whether their parish is going in the right direction?
Well, it has been a transformation over the last 5 years, for sure. I mean, I've been a parishioner for a very long time here, and so I've seen other changes as well. But in these last 5 years, I have noticed that people feel more comfortable in showing their vulnerabilities, of the need to be understanding their relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, that they are comfortable in following a path that leads to more openness of their faith. It used to be that it was a very singular kind of worship, if you will, very private. Now we experience a shared understanding and worship where people are very comfortable in being together and talking about their faith.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're blessed enough. And again, everybody, it's not like we actually succeed in everything. There's plenty of things we try at St. Clement. We absolutely failed.
And we're by no
Yeah.
means where we need to be just yet.
And so we don't want to even share those because some of those are really big disasters of things we hope will work really well and they didn't. But so many things did start working, right? Our women's series, men's series, all those ways to accompany people and to create space, as you just named, Katherine, for people to recognize that God sees them as they are, not as they wish to be. And there's something really sacred about it, isn't it? And empowering.
It's giving them the opportunity to find themselves, not to be told that this is the way you should be as a Catholic in 2025. It's that they grow on their own, in their own time, but with other individuals that we're on the same path, but our journey is always different because we are all individuals. And the experience that I've had in those groups has been eye-opening. Because you learn from each person around the table, other ways to look at things, other ways to think of things, other ways to pray, for instance. And we have a unique parish in the sense that we have so many opportunities for people to build their faith and become stronger Catholics and more involved in what we're doing here.
And, Katherine, knowing a little bit about your journey, given we've served on the parish council, among other things together, what you just shared is not some abstract concept or strategy that has been put in front of you that you're just sharing about. It's actually your lived experience over the last 5 years, right? Could you maybe share a little bit about that? Specifically, this idea of vulnerability? Because I think one of the things you've shared with me is that the last couple of years, this idea of a parish on mission and what it calls for is something that has been challenging for you and that you've had to overcome certain roadblocks, if you will. You maybe just share a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Sure. I mean, and those are my own roadblocks. Those are situations within me where I built a wall to say, I've been here for a long time. I've grown up with understanding that you don't talk about your religion with people. And over these last 5 years, with the introduction of Alpha, for instance, that I heard about Alpha, people were going to Alpha.
Did you even sign yourself up, or did someone else sign you up?
I actually signed myself up, but
I don't sign people up, but I encourage.
No. But I felt that encouragement, and I said, you know what? It's got to be okay, right? It's online.
How bad could it be?
How bad could it be? And if I don't really like it, I can just not tune in every week. So that's how I approached Alpha. Maybe not as open-minded as other people, but what I learned through those 11 weeks is that this is such a personal journey for me and for everyone else. And we all grow and learn at a different pace. And once you open your heart to listening and hearing other people, you grow immensely. And that's how I ended Alpha. And that's not how I began Alpha, but that journey personally was really a loving and eye-opening moment for me.
And good thing that she talked positively about her experience of Alpha, because I was her host. So thankfully, it ended better than it started, which is great. Yeah. But I do remember those first couple of weeks, you just didn't really want to say much, and something just happened. And I think what's neat about it is you've had those opportunities in other places as well as you put yourself out there more, whether it's Alpha or Lydia or Bible study, whatever that may be, to start sharing, but also to start leading and modeling for others. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah. Thank you. It was quite a transformation for me, for sure.
And what you guys just illustrated, it's something that we on the staff work hard on every day. Nicole, not every parish has a chief of staff or strategy. It's kind of a former um, idea to a lot of people. So what is it that you actually do?
That's a great question. And it has evolved over the last 4 years that I have been in this position. And really, the idea is that I am here to help the staff, particularly, stay on mission and understand that they are part of a larger part of what's happening in this parish family, right? They have specific tasks and roles that need to happen, but they are part of a larger idea of how we are growing the kingdom of God here. And so I really am here to help give that encouragement, help to continue to reiterate what our mission is. It's bringing that into the daily rhythm of our days that we have here at St. Clement. It's, talking about it in our staff meetings. It's putting together a culture of humility and accountability so that every person on the staff, no matter if you have the highest degrees in theology or business or what have you, to maybe you haven't even graduated undergrad, right? That you are all welcome to be a part of this community, because we need that group of people that are able to really hold each other to a high standard of helping to provide the accompaniment that so many people now desperately need. I think it's part of why we're seeing such growth here at St. Clement is because of what has happened specifically over the last 5 years, that people are actively seeking to find a place that they belong and to find hope again. And every faith community should be thriving right now, because that is the culture that we're living in right now. And taking whatever step that you can to listen to your community is really key.
And that listening and acting on it then translates into kind of strategy of saying,
Yeah.
okay, how are we going then to serve, to evaluate, and then to hopefully grow. And we measure everything at St. Clement. God knows we and that's part of us making sure that we actually serve well and that people are responding to the things we do. And as you go to our website, you see we engaged something like 17,000 people last year in our programs, and you might say, oh my gosh, we cannot even engage 200 or 300. And I think it's about starting somewhere, right? Is figuring out what is it that you need to start with, and really investing in that and inviting people to join you on this journey of saying, well, let's try those two things and give ourselves a year. And if it sticks, then we'll continue. And if it doesn't, we'll tweak it and maybe do something different. But don't you think that that's kind of a big thing what we try to do here at St. Clement, right?
It is, absolutely. I tell people when they're interviewing that you would be working for a 2,000-year-old startup. We have the sacred tradition of our Catholic faith, but we operate like a startup business in that we are adaptable, we are bold, we are trying things. You have the opportunity to fail, but you have to learn from those failings and try again, right? And part of that is to understand the culture that we're in right now.
Parish leaders have to do three things, right? They have to listen. They have to assess what are the resources available to them. And then is what they're trying to do connected to their vision and mission? I mean, we spend a lot of time, you spend way more time than I do, sitting back and saying, okay, we have all those things people want to do. The vision of our community, our purpose is to build the kingdom of God. Will that help us to build kingdom of God? Because if it doesn't, we probably don't have resources, time, and people
Right.
to spend time on it.
Right.
So I think it's really important for communities to really recognize what is their vision, what's their mission. So everything that they do supports that and flows from it. So there's clarity on what the expectations are.
Absolutely. And I think that starts with listening. It's listening to how the Holy Spirit is calling your particular community and listening to the community members, what your parish family is saying, whether it's through formal feedback or informal conversations. You have to understand and continue to have that conversation, right? It's not just a one and done and we've done something and now we can move on. This is continuously evolving, and you have to be prepared to continue to have those conversations.
And I think, Nicole, one of the pieces that is coming to my mind as you talk is the fact that in the church, in ministry, we take a much longer view than the world typically tends to take on things, right? I remember the story of some consulting company that was doing work at the Vatican, and they were trying to get the Vatican to move on something. And the cardinal that's doing the work with them, he's like, look, we don't measure time here in weeks or months. We think in centuries. And there is some reality to that, right? Ministry is long. It takes time because we're not just trying to produce something in 3 months.
Right.
We're journeying with people, and conversion and the deepening of faith takes time.
Right.
And we have to be mindful of that, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we live in a world of immediate gratification, right? I mean, everyone wants to be recognized for what they do, get a pat on the back immediately, and if you don't get that promotion or whatever the situation is within X amount of time, you move on. And that's not what happens here at St. Clement. It doesn't happen really anywhere. There needs to be patience. There needs to be an effort of everyone understanding that progress is slow. We can accelerate that when we can, but we have to really understand that immediate gratification is not what we're after here. We're in for the long game, for just the end result of everyone in our community feeling like they have a voice, that they are heard, that they participate, and that's what we want.
And the other piece that we've talked a lot about in the parish council is the journey is also what matters, right? I mean, I always think back to the story of Exodus, right? When Moses and the Egyptian and the Israelis have left Egypt, and they're in the desert for 40 years, and Moses doesn't really get to see the promised land, right? He sits on the ledge and he sees it. And one could think, oh, how sad that he didn't get to see the promised land. But for those 40 years, when he was on the journey, he was able to be in the presence of God every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what we get to do every day, right? Like things aren't perfect. We don't have a church that's like packed out for everything. We don't have everything figured out, but we get to see the face of Jesus and be in the presence of God every single day.
Right. And that journey is individual. It's different for everyone. But we all have that same goal. We all are in the presence of God. Just like you said, Marco, he is here, he is with us, and every journey is what makes a difference for our community, for sure.
And
I think
I was
for
just-
some of the parish leaders who are listening to us, something that comes to mind is that there will be things you will do that worked, and yet at the same time you will be disappointed. We just did our first parish mission in Lent, and it was a 4-day prayer, experience, and we had an amazing speaker, Lisa Fortini Campbell, and there was part of me which was really disappointed. I think 200, 300 people participated, and I was kind of hoping we'll get 700, 1,000. And then you step back and you say, okay, what is God doing here? And I think what God was showing us is, I'm working on 300 people. Be grateful. And this is your starting point, right? And so I think God just does things so differently. And part of this conversion as church leaders is to say, okay, well, my vision is one thing, but what is Jesus's vision? I mean, I always repeat
Yeah.
that here at St. Clement. What is Jesus's dream for St. Clement? Not Peter's dream. Who cares about my dreams, right? And so it's going back to the scripture and saying, well, let's look for evidence. Like, what is God looking for in a good community? And for you, parish leaders watching it, listening to us, is keep asking yourself this question: what is God's dream for my community? Who are the 3-4 people I'm discussing this dream with, praying into this dream with, so then I can live it out in the generations or in the decades or weeks that or months that I might have.
And recognizing within your parish who are those strong individuals who will step up. And
Yes.
whether it's by invitation or just volunteering themselves, but who is within your own parish that will accompany the pastor and the leaders to then bring the word.
You know, Catherine, it's such a joy to be able to minister together in partly through the parish council. And one of the things that I have found really encouraging and really awesome has been the fact that not everyone in the parish council is A, the same age, B, the same demographic or stage of life, but then C, all Catholic.
I know. How about that?
Oh no, are you going to throw her out? There it
Are we
goes.
gonna
There's
get
a
in
secret.
trouble for this?
There's
Not
the
everybody
secret.
is Catholic.
Not everyone's Catholic.
Well, we are actually really mindful of who and how we put the council together. We take quite a length of time to speak with everyone that is interested in joining our council, and who we also feel could be a great addition to the council. And as a result, we have, as you said, all ages, all demographics, parish people, we have school families, and yes, a non-Catholic is really important because how they see what we're doing really reflects on how we move forward. And I think understanding where people are coming from and listening, as you said, Nicole, to listen to what people are telling us and hearing. It's how we grow.
And you know what's really cool? It's not like you just pluck people out and just put them in the council
Right.
so that you have quotas and meetings. It's like
correct.
people that aren't fully Catholic, right, that haven't received all the sacraments and all of that, are also part of the St. Clement community. Like
Absolutely.
on Sundays, there's a lot of people that come up and have their arms crossed, right? But and we have a lot of couples, right, that come to Mass, and one's Catholic and one's, a different Christian denomination. And that's another big reason too. We want everyone's voice to be heard, and that is an important demographic that we're seeing in our current context.
Right. We just welcome everyone who comes, and we want to hear what they have to say.
And I think that welcoming is part of how we think about designing St. Clement, right? It's not by pure chance. We actually, again, going back to Nicole's role, we measure and study who comes, who is here, how many people are Catholic versus Christian versus searching. So we have idea of how to serve everybody in the neighborhood, not just Catholics in the neighborhood. And clearly, not every parish is able to have a chief of staff or chief of strategy. We merge those two roles together because we cannot afford having two different roles anyway. But Nicole, what are the kind of 2 or 3 characteristics of the role that the parish leader should consider so they can ask volunteers to do those, or they can perhaps brainstorm about who would be a lead on some of those characteristics of your own role?
So I really think part of it is listening to the community on what is actually needed. And part of that means that it may not be someone with a theology degree or a business degree, but have they had that transformation of heart that they are actually the leader and have that mission ingrained in them that they can do that position, right? It's very interesting when we look at the resume, so to speak, of our staff, and actually you would say, how is this working?
You're right.
It is. But it is because we've all listened to our call from God and have answered it. And we are all needed in this space as well too, because we are all not this perfect 360-degree person that can handle everything that a community like this needs. We absolutely need each other. We need each other for that support when sometimes you have those overwhelming or long days, but we need each other in terms of the gifts that we all bring.
Obviously, one of the pieces that we want to capture the essence of, right, and why we're doing this whole podcast is to be able to share observations and ideas for how to engage the next generation in faith. None of us are Gen Z by any means, right? So
I missed it by 3 years.
just 3 years.
I won't
just
comment.
3 years. But can we maybe talk a little bit about that, right? Because it could be one of those things where you say, "What, I'm the one that's here. I'm the one that's been here for a long time. Why are we talking about those people that aren't here? Why are we pushing ourselves to change our methods to reach those people that aren't here?" Could you maybe talk about how you've seen the community start to rally around that idea and how you have kind of helped this community kind of keep moving forward and being comfortable with that?
Change for anyone is challenging, right? I mean, it isn't, everyone likes the status quo. And if it isn't broken, don't fix it kind of thing. But when we offer the opportunities that we do, where we can come together, all ages within the parish, that we have groups that are just women, Lydia. There is a Growing in Grace group. There are all different groups, and those are important. But when we come together at Wind Down Wednesday, or when we come together, for instance, at 4:30 Mass now on Sunday, there's a moment within the Mass where we are asked by the presider to turn to someone that you don't know, to your right, to your left, front, behind, and ask them to pray for you. And again, it's a challenge for some, but it is a way for our community to all understand that we are family. And so I just feel like that's how leadership and our ministries are working together in the community.
I think too how we look at the staff as well is similar to how the parish is set up. We can learn something from every single person, right? And so we talked a little bit about how I believe our younger generations are more open to being vulnerable right away versus other generations. That right there is a huge learning, I think, especially when it comes to faith and faith sharing, to be able to understand that we do put a lot of effort in also reaching that generation because they are scattered everywhere, right? And they don't have a background or to know that this can be a safe space for them, that other generations know that my church can be a safe space for people. So I think it's important that communication that we've given to the community as a whole, but also that we've modeled on the staff, I think is important.
And what's cool is that as we shift, the culture and people start getting more excited about this and they have their own deeper conversions, you're able to attract more people that are far away from church because there's people here that are happy, that are joyful, that are excited to see guests, not just because they haven't been there, but because you genuinely are excited for people to explore and experience.
And you can begin in a smaller group. I mean, that's what's so
it doesn't have to be big, right?
No, it doesn't have to be big. And so you approach it at your own comfort level, and then you grow within the community.
Love that. Well, it is about to rain here in Chicago, and the time is up for this podcast, but we are so grateful to both of you, Katherine and Nicole,
you
for
both.
joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the second week of our 3-week series. Again, we will be back next week with Katie Bach. Katie runs our operations here. And as we talk about individual conversion today, communal conversion, this call of Jesus to pay attention to what God is doing in our midst, we'll look at how do you sustain it, right? So how do you ensure that the structures of your church actually add service to your mission versus being disconnected? So we cannot wait to see you next week.
See you then.
Thank you.